A man discovers his wife's infidelity, not just an affair, but a pregnancy that confirms her betrayal. What he does next isn't just revenge, but... Stay tuned because this one will leave you breathless. Welcome back to Unheard Stories, where every tale uncovers hidden truths and raw emotions that will leave you questioning humanity. Where are you watching from today? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear your... Arjun and Meera were the couple everyone envied. On the surface, their life seemed like something out of a fairy tale. Arjun was a successful businessman in his mid-30s, running a thriving tech company that demanded long hours but rewarded him handsomely. His sharp suits, luxury car, and sprawling apartment were symbols of his hard work and ambition. Meera, his wife of 8 years, was equally admired. A striking woman with a warm smile who balanced her role as a homemaker with occasional freelance design projects. Together, they appeared to have it all: wealth, comfort, and a picture-perfect marriage. But behind closed doors, cracks had begun to form. Cracks neither of them wanted to acknowledge. For Meera, life had become monotonous. Arjun's relentless focus on his career left little room for romance or connection. Dinners were often silent, interrupted only by the sound of cutlery clinking against plates. Conversations revolved around bills, household chores, or vague promises of spending more time together that never materialized. "I'm doing this for us," Arjun would say whenever Meera hinted at feeling neglected. "Once this project is over, things will change." But the projects never ended, and Meera grew lonelier with each passing day. She craved intimacy, not just physical but emotional. She missed the man who used to surprise her with midnight drives and handwritten notes. Now he barely looked up from his phone during meals, let alone held her hand. It was during one of these lonely stretches that Meera met Rohan. A charming colleague from a partner firm, Rohan was everything Arjun wasn't at that moment. Attentive, playful, and eager to listen. At first, their interactions were innocent enough. Casual conversations over coffee, shared laughter during meetings, and the occasional text after work hours. But soon, those texts turned into late-night calls, and the calls turned into secret dinners outside the city. Rohan made Meera feel seen in ways Arjun hadn't in years. He complimented her creativity, encouraged her dreams, and filled the void Arjun's absence had created. One evening, after too many glasses of wine and months of pent-up emotions, Meera crossed a line she couldn't uncross. What started as an innocent friendship became an affair, a betrayal fueled by loneliness, resentment, and misplaced affection. At first, guilt gnawed at her. She tried to justify it. "Arjun doesn't care about me anymore. This isn't hurting anyone." But deep down, she knew the truth. Every lie, every stolen moment with Rohan chipped away at the foundation of her marriage. Meanwhile, Arjun remained oblivious, or so it seemed. Buried under deadlines and meetings, he failed to notice the subtle changes in Meera's behavior. The way she avoided his touch, the excuses to stay late at work, the faint smell of unfamiliar cologne on her clothes. By the time Arjun realized something was wrong, it was already too late. And when he finally uncovered the truth, it came in the most devastating way imaginable: a positive pregnancy test hidden in the trash. Little did he know, this discovery would set off a chain reaction of betrayal, revenge, and redemption. It was a quiet Tuesday evening when Arjun stumbled upon the truth, a truth that shattered his world in an instant. He had been looking for a pen in the bathroom cabinet when he noticed something unusual in the trash bin. A small white stick with 2 pink lines glaring back at him. Pregnancy test. Confusion turned to dread as his mind raced. Meera hadn't mentioned anything about being pregnant. In fact, they hadn't been intimate in months, not since their last argument over her growing distance. The realization hit him like a freight train. This isn't mine. Arjun's hands trembled as he held the test, his heart pounding in his chest. He wanted to believe there was another explanation, but deep down, he already knew. The late nights, the secretive phone calls, the way she flinched whenever he tried to touch her. It all made sense now. When Meera walked into the living room later that night, Arjun was waiting for her, the pregnancy test clutched tightly in his hand. His face was pale, his jaw clenched so hard it looked like it might crack. "What is this?" he demanded, holding up the test. Mira froze, her eyes widening in panic. For a moment, she considered lying, but the look in Arjun's eyes told her it was futile. I can explain," she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. "Explain what? That you're pregnant? Or that it's not mine?" Arjun spat, his voice trembling with anger and betrayal. Tears welled up in Mira's eyes as she sank onto the couch, unable to meet his gaze. "It's complicated," she whispered. "Complicated," Arjun repeated, his voice rising. "You think cheating on me and getting knocked up by someone else is complicated? Who is he, Mira? Tell me." She hesitated, guilt and shame choking her words. Finally, she blurted out, "It's Rohan." The name hit Arjun like a punch to the gut. Rohan, the charming colleague who always seemed too friendly during meetings. The man Arjun had trusted, even invited to dinner once. "How long has this been going on?" Arjun asked, his voice dangerously low. "A few months," Mira admitted, tears streaming down her face. "I didn't mean for it to happen. It just did." "You didn't mean for it to happen?" Arjun echoed, his tone laced with disbelief. "So what, you just fell into bed with him one day? Or was it gradual? Did you plan this behind my back while pretending everything was fine?" "I was lonely, Arjun," Mira cried, finally meeting his gaze. "You were never here. You stopped caring about us years ago. Rohan made me feel alive again. He made me feel loved." Her words cut deeper than any knife could. Arjun felt a mix of emotions: rage, hurt, and humiliation. But beneath it all was a seething desire for revenge. How dare she justify her betrayal? How dare she throw away 8 years of marriage for some fleeting affair? "You want to feel loved?" Arjun said coldly, his voice dripping with venom. "Fine, but don't expect me to forgive this. Don't expect me to forget." That night, they slept in separate rooms, the silence between them heavier than any argument they'd ever had. Arjun lay awake, staring at the ceiling, his mind racing. He couldn't let her get away with this, not without consequences. By morning, he had made a decision. This wasn't just about Mira anymore. It was about proving that no one betrayed Arjun and walked away unscathed. And Rohan, he would pay too. The days that followed were a blur of anger and calculation for Arjun. He didn't lash out immediately. No, this wasn't about losing control. This was about precision. Every action, every word would be deliberate. He had spent years building his empire, mastering the art of strategy and business. And now, he would apply those same skills to dismantling the lives of the two people who had betrayed him. Arjun began by gathering evidence. He accessed Mira's phone while she was asleep, unlocking it with the passcode she'd carelessly left written in a notebook. What he found made his blood boil. Hundreds of messages between her and Rohan, filled with declarations of love, plans for secret meetings, and even discussions about leaving Arjun. There were photos too, intimate ones that made his stomach churn. He copied everything onto an external drive, ensuring he had more than enough ammunition to destroy them both. But simply exposing their affair wasn't enough. Arjun wanted them to feel the weight of their betrayal, the same pain they had inflicted on him. His first target was Rohan. As a businessman, Arjun knew how fragile reputations could be. A single scandal could ruin someone's career, especially in Rohan's industry, which relied heavily on trust and credibility. Arjun began subtly planting seeds of doubt among Rohan's colleagues and clients. Anonymous emails hinted at unethical behavior, fabricated documents suggested financial misconduct, and leaked rumors painted Rohan as unreliable and untrustworthy. Within weeks, Rohan's professional life unraveled. Clients pulled out of deals, partners distanced themselves, and his firm placed him on leave pending an internal investigation. When Rohan tried to defend himself, no one believed him. After all, why would anyone doubt the mountain of evidence Arjun had meticulously crafted? But Arjun wasn't done yet. Next, he turned his attention to Mira. Unlike Rohan, whose downfall was swift and public, Arjun wanted Mira's punishment to be slow and personal. He started by isolating her, cutting off access to joint accounts and freezing assets in her name. Without his financial support, She was forced to rely on Rohan, who was now barely holding onto his own life. Then came the ultimate blow: exposure. Arjun anonymously sent copies of Mira's messages and photos to her family, friends, and social circle. The fallout was immediate and brutal. Her parents disowned her, calling her actions shameful and unforgivable. Friends stopped speaking to her, and neighbors whispered behind her back whenever she stepped outside. Even strangers online joined in, shaming her on social media platforms after screenshots of her texts went viral. Mira was devastated. She had convinced herself that her affair with Rohan was justified, that Arjun deserved it for neglecting her. But now, faced with the consequences, she realized how selfish and reckless she had been. Yet, there was no one to turn to. Rohan, overwhelmed by his own failures, blamed her for dragging him into this mess. Their relationship crumbled under the pressure, leaving Mira utterly alone. Through it all, Arjun watched silently from the shadows, savoring each moment of their descent. He attended events where people gossiped about Mira's scandal, nodding sympathetically while secretly reveling in her humiliation. At work, he crossed paths with Rohan occasionally, offering polite but icy greetings that masked his triumph. Yet, despite the satisfaction he felt, something gnawed at him, a hollow ache that revenge couldn't fill. Destroying Mira and Rohan hadn't brought back the life they had stolen from him. It hadn't erased the pain or restored the trust he once cherished. Still, Arjun told himself it didn't matter. Justice had been served. They had gotten exactly what they deserved, or so he thought. Rohan's life spiraled further out of control as Arjun's meticulously planned revenge reached its peak. Once a rising star in his firm, Rohan was now a pariah, ostracized by colleagues, abandoned by clients, and drowning in debt from legal fees he couldn't afford. His attempts to clear his name only dug him deeper into despair. Every denial seemed hollow, every explanation dismissed as lies. Desperation drove him to confront Mira, hoping they could salvage something from the wreckage of their lives. "We need to fix this," he pleaded during one of their increasingly rare meetings. "If we stick together, maybe we can get through it." But Mira barely looked at him. Her once vibrant spirit had been crushed under the weight of public shame and isolation. She lived in a tiny rented apartment, struggling to make ends meet while raising the child she never imagined would become a symbol of her greatest mistake. "This is your fault," she snapped bitterly. "You told me everything would be fine. You said we'd be happy. And you believed me," Rohan shot back, his voice tinged with frustration. "You're the one who cheated first, Mira. Don't act like I forced you into anything." Their arguments grew more heated, each blaming the other for their downfall. Eventually, they stopped speaking altogether. Rohan disappeared from her life, leaving her to face the consequences alone. Rumors circulated that he had fled the city, seeking refuge in some distant town where no one knew his name. As for Mira, her punishment extended far beyond financial ruin or social exile. The birth of her child, a boy named Ariv, should have brought joy, but instead, it filled her with guilt and regret. Every time she looked into her son's eyes, she saw the faces of those she had hurt: Arjun, her parents, the friends who once loved her. Her loneliness became unbearable. Days blurred into nights as she struggled to care for Ariv, working odd jobs to provide for him while battling depression. She tried reaching out to Arjun once, hoping for forgiveness, or at least closure, but he refused to answer her calls. When she showed up unannounced at his office, security escorted her out before she could even speak to him. Meanwhile, Arjun continued to monitor their downfall from afar. He received updates about Rohan's disappearance and Mira's struggles, feeling a twisted sense of satisfaction. Yet, the emptiness inside him persisted. Revenge hadn't healed his wounds. It had only deepened them. One evening, as he sat alone in his penthouse overlooking the city lights, Arjun found himself staring at old photos of him and Mira. Their wedding day, vacations, quiet moments at home. Memories flooded back, reminding him of the love they once shared. For the first time since discovering her betrayal, he allowed himself to feel not just anger, but sadness. Had it really been worth it? Destroying their lives hadn't brought him peace. Instead, It left him isolated, consumed by bitterness. Arjun realized then that holding on to hatred wasn't strength, it was weakness. True power came from letting go, from choosing to rise above the pain rather than being defined by it. And so, he made a decision. He would stop punishing himself and others for what had happened. It was time to move forward. In the months that followed, Arjun began the slow process of rebuilding his life. Not just materially, but emotionally. He sold the penthouse, trading its cold opulence for a modest home closer to nature. The change of scenery symbolized a fresh start, a chance to redefine who he was without the weight of bitterness anchoring him down. He threw himself into new projects, mentoring young entrepreneurs, volunteering at community centers, and even reconnecting with old friends he'd drifted apart from during his marriage. These connections reminded him of the importance of relationships built on trust and mutual respect, qualities he had neglected in his pursuit of success. As for Mira, she eventually found solace in motherhood. Though her mistakes haunted her, Ariv became her reason to keep going. She poured all her energy into raising him with love and honesty, determined to teach him values she herself had once ignored. Her journey wasn't easy, but it taught her humility and resilience. Arjun crossed paths with Mira one last time years later by chance, at a park where Ariv played with other children. They exchanged awkward smiles before sitting on opposite benches, watching their son laugh and run freely. "He looks like you," Arjun said finally, breaking the silence. "And he has your determination," Mira replied softly, her voice tinged with regret. "I'm sorry, Arjun." "For everything?" Arjun nodded, accepting her apology not because he forgave her completely, but because holding on to anger no longer served him. "We both made mistakes," he admitted. "But maybe we can both learn from them." They parted ways after that brief encounter, each carrying the lessons they had learned. For Arjun, it was about finding strength in letting go. For Mira, it was about seeking redemption through love and sacrifice. So, Unheard Stories reminds us, betrayal leaves scars, but healing is possible when we choose to rise above pain. Love may falter, trust may break, but humanity endures, even in the face of our darkest moments. Thank you for watching. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Unheard Stories for more tales that explore the depths of human emotions. Until next time, remember, every action has consequences, but so does every choice to forgive or rebuild.